Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome along then to this round number 3 in the FRS GT series. I am joined, of course, in the virtual commentary box and virtual control room this week by Hummersep. Hummersep, hello, how are you doing?
Good evening, everyone. I'm hyped. This is one of my most favorite tracks. I'm excited to see the shambles, or hopefully the avoidance of said shambles.
Absolutely, because if you do not know, because you've not yet read the title of today's stream, but we are racing at Bathurst, one of the fantastic circuits in the world, in Australia, of course, in the real world, and today it is virtual. Unlike last time out when we went racing at night in Spain, this will be in daylight conditions, and as I understand, we have 2 different races going on this evening, Hummersep.
Yeah, exactly. We have 2 races, a 20-minute race followed by a 40-minute race. We have a quick set of quali with 10 minutes for the first one. And the result of the 20-minute race will be the grid position for the 40-minute race afterwards. No mandatory pit stops this time due to the shortened race duration.
Okay, fantastic. So we will be heading down into the first race shortly. We don't have a qualifying session, though, do we?
We have 10 minutes of qualifying.
Oh, 10 minutes. Ah, okay, right, there we go. Good stuff. Right, so as we are then, 10 minutes of quali to come. We're just seeing now on our end here, because you don't get to see everything that goes on behind the scenes here at the FRS, but I'll let you in a little secret, everybody. So we've got the game up right now. We can see that there's just a couple of seconds more left of free practice remaining. Checker flag is now out, so everybody currently on the lap will finish and we'll circulate around, get back to the pit, and then we will leave the lobby and go and set up the qualifying and that first race. Let's give you a bit of a rundown in terms of what's going on in the championship as well, because if you're new here, then of course you'll need a bit of updating as to what's been going on over the last couple of weeks. So in round 1 we had Gabriel Gonçalves winning that first round there in Silverstone, and then in the second round we had Helget, also known on the server as Fraser, and those names you may hear me use interchangeably over the course of today, but they have taken the win in round number 2 in Spain. Now, that means that the pair of them are now separated by just 1 point at the top of the championship, on account of the fact that Fraser has had 2 poles and a 3rd place in Britain, but Gabriel has had a 1st place in Britain and then 2nd place in Spain. So that's where those extra points are coming in handy for Fraser at the moment, because otherwise without those, they would be 2nd at the moment. So a gap of just 1 point between the top 2 in the championship. Then in 3rd place we have Pentila, who drives the, well, it says the Honda here, but I think it's a McLaren that they drive. So we've got them in 3rd place at the moment on 60.
As Mr. Gilligan totally cut out. Oh, there you are.
Oh no, I'm back. Very good. Right, that's that. Oh dear, it's happening. It's happening again. Well, we've got Duck in the fourth position at the moment. Then in the championship with 65 points versus Pentila's 66. And so, as a result of all of that movement going on there, that means that consistency is currently the key for Pentila. They've had a 5th and a 4th in the first 2 rounds. For Duck, it's been a bit more of a peaky performance, with 7th place in Silverstone and then 3rd in Spain. So things have been up and down for them, down initially and then up after that, but that does mean they've hauled home 65 points. So another good, strong performance from them today might well put them up into 3rd place in the championship. In 4th, we then have McDermott, and 5th is McDermott, and then 6th is De Bruyne. Then we start to see our first of the silver class drivers who are beating some of the pro drivers at the moment in the championship hunt. So we've got Harkiman leading the silver championship at the moment with 50 points total in the overall championship. We can give you a more detailed breakdown of their position in the silver championship exclusively in just a few minutes or so. Akdeniz is then behind them, also a silver driver, and then Karppinen in 9th place overall, but 3rd in the silver standings. We're then going to jump down the overall table a little bit here, rather than read out every single driver that is currently enrolled in the GT series at the moment, and we go down to the current leader of the AM class, which is Soros. Soros having a reasonably good time of it the last couple of races out, 18th and 14th overall, but of course when we've got over 30 drivers or so racing in the race, that is not a bad showing at all from the AM driver, driving the Ferrari there. Then in second in the AM drivers, second of the AM drivers, I should say, in the overall championship is Struthers with 19th place, with a 17th and a 19th in the races so far. And then Williams as the 3rd driver in the AM category in the overall championship so far. So, in terms of this breakdown then, in terms of the Silver Drivers' Cup and the AM Drivers' Cup, let's go through it. So, if you're not familiar, in the overall races, you will score points relative to your position on track versus everybody else, regardless of your class. But if you're in the silver or the AM drivers, then you also score points relative to where you've finished around those in your same class. So we have Harkiman currently leading the way in the silver championship with what is the equivalent of a 3rd place and a win in the silver last time out, so 40 points in total for them. Then it's Akdeniz and then Karppinen with a 2nd and 3rd and a 4th and 2nd respectively, giving them 33 and 30 points again, respectively. In the AM drivers, we've then got Soros leading the way, as mentioned earlier on. They had a 3rd place within the AM drivers in Silverstone, and then a win in Spain last time out. In second is then Cooks, who is the only driver in the field that I have seen so far competing. We do have other drivers who have listed this particular car, but the only driver that I've seen so far driving the Audi R8. They are currently in second with a win in Silverstone in the AM class, but then 6th place in the AM class in Spain last time out. Struthers then is still in 3rd place there as well in the Aston Martin, 2nd in the AM class in Silverstone, and then 4th in Spain. Now, there was a driver who performed very, very admirably, joining as an AM driver last time out, and that was Hudson, who, again, the only driver in the field to drive a Lamborghini. They have impressed so much in that first race, despite being the victim of a first corner collision between themselves and a number of different cars. And they have been promoted from AM to silver. So they took home a 17th place overall in the Spain race, and then in the Silver Cup, that puts them currently in 10th out of 11 drivers. Now, that is partially because of the fact that they, as I say, had to do a bit of a recovery drive. They also obviously were down the order because of crashes and drive-through penalties and other bits and pieces as well. But yes, that is how things are for them, and that is your championship standings as far as the drivers are concerned. So we'll come back to things like constructors and teams and so on a bit later on, but let's have a look now at qualifying instead. And Hummersep, you've been paying attention over these last 5 minutes whilst I've been reading things out. What can you tell us?
Nothing crazy yet. Everyone starting the first hot lap. Usually the second hot lap is the more decisive one as the tires are on temperature. Then for sure nothing crazy. Fraser top, Gabriel second, Food Tracy third, as you would expect. Kuma in the AM class on P7, but as I said, the next few laps, next 2 laps should be more decisive than their first hot lap. And very interesting to see if we see some upsets and how people were able to practice. Bathurst is one of those tracks where it's a very like a high risk, high reward situation, because you can push the mountain section a lot, but it's also very easy to totally bin it. And yeah, it's quite interesting to see how people are actually, how much risk they put in for a good hot lap, or if they're just trying to get a good banker. And we can have a look with Cruiser on the uphill section, which is very interesting, I think, because it doesn't look like it, but after this turn, the whole uphill section, you can drive it flat. You have to not release throttle till you are at the peak. And it's really easy, especially in the right-hander here at the green barrier. This is the most difficult one, to get straight on full throttle, and then you can just hold the throttle till you're on the top, and then it's the whole down section, a fight between you and the brakes and not spinning around. It's very intense if you actually drive it.
And just given that, I mean, Bathurst, as we say, it's one of these great circuits in motor racing. It's up there with the likes of Monaco and Macau and all these sorts of things. And I would say that, I mean, is that a fair comparison to make as well? Given that, we mentioned those famous circuits, Monaco and Macau. Two street circuits where the barriers are incredibly close, one overstep of the limits and you're into them, and your qualifying on your race or whatever it happens to be is over. Is it the same sort of risk here? I mean, you mentioned already it's high risk, high reward. Do you think that a comparison between those two venues as well is a fair one?
Yeah, I think so. It especially has some similarities to Monaco as well. Given the mountain section, you pretty much don't overtake. Like, any overtake happening in a safe manner in the mountain section will be a highlight of some sort. You don't see it, and even we had a driver briefing ahead. And even if a very fast car is behind a slow car, the slow car is advised to not try the other car to get by until you left the mountain section, pretty much the up and downhill section. So anywhere on one of the two pretty much long straights afterwards.
Fantastic, good stuff. See, this is sort of the insight that we're very, very lucky to get, because if it was just me on my own, I would have not a clue of anything of that sort. So, in terms of our overall standings, then, we've got yellow flags out somewhere on the circuit at the moment. They're gone now, so maybe that was just somebody getting out of the way, going nice and slow. And we've got just under 2 minutes left to go in this session then. So currently we're having a look at Prune Tracy then. Had to jump in at the very last minute in the last round, of course, out in Spain. But in the BMW, and seemingly back to their best at the moment, currently in P4. As we've got Gabriel, Fraser and Donald ahead of them at the moment, with the two Astons and the McLaren in the respective 1, 2, 3 positions, and then Prune Tracy in fourth, as we say. Then we've got McDermott, or Cruiser, and then we have TB. Now, I must say, I wasn't expecting an airborne disease to be driving a car today. Who's that? Is that someone who's renamed themselves, or have we got a new driver in the pack?
Yes, it's Timothy Boysha, aka Timelele. So he just probably went with the abbreviation.
There we are then. That makes an awful lot more sense. That makes me feel a lot less panicky about the safety of other drivers if they were too close to the other car. All they need to do is just roll down the window and cough. Anyway, so Timelele then in 6th place at the moment. Pentila currently 3rd in the standings, 7th in qualifying so far. And we've got 40 seconds to go now. Then we've got Karpinen, Harkimer, Van Winsum, Actenes, De Bruyne, Daly, Kuma, Johansson, Callas, Soros, Hicks, Cooks, Holo, Crabtree, Williams, and Mustafaj at the moment in those top 23 positions. Have we got just the 23 drivers we can see on the timing tower, or have we got even more?
That's it for now, and apparently, like, Mustafa, who is weltering, just joined, and I don't think he's able to get a hot lap in, so he will be, as a pro driver, start from the very back for the sprint race. And given the difficulty you have of overtaking, it will be a tough one for him to get some positions here.
Absolutely, and look at that there. The squirreliness of the car from De Bruyne as they just came through turn number 1 there. Down the straight then, and on towards turn number 2. And this is going to be probably the last lap that we see completed in this qualifying session. They managed to cross the line just before the checkered flag came out. So let's have a ride on board with them then and get familiar with the Bathurst circuit. So up the hill we go then, and then into this left-hander just up ahead, and then that's a bit of a kink really before we then brake down a bit harder and then chuck the car through the camber and then up the hill once more. A couple of right-handers to come then, and then we have the green barrier here. This being where you can get it wrong. Also very close to that left-hand wall on the exit. And then we go through a left-hander, a couple of left-handers in fact, another one just there. And then a bit of breathing moment before we then have another couple of real sort of seat-in-your-pants moments here before we then get to this downhill section. And there we go, you see, there's how it can all go wrong. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Just ended up bouncing over the curb, didn't get the braking right heading into there. And unfortunately for them, that means that qualifying is over for them.
Yeah, as I said, the mountain section is really a tricky one, especially in a race. You're way better off just driving it consistent and safe, but in quali, when you really want to push, it's quite some risky business.
Absolutely, yeah, and unfortunately, that is not the way to go about it. So De Bruyne will start in 12th place then. They will not improve any more beyond that, so at least, or rather I should say, they'll start in their maximum rather, of 12th place. So, as it is then, qualifying is over, and this is the provisional result. So, Gabriel takes pole position then, rather than Fraser, so a change to the last two races. And then we've got Prune Tracy, McDermott, Pentila, Harkema, Donald, Timalele under TB today, and then Karppinen, Van Winsum, Actenis, De Bruyne, Holo, Hicks, Williams, Daly, Kuma, Johansson, Callas, Soros, and
followed by Krepti, Cooks, and Mustafa.
There we go. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Hammer Step. So, a bit of a spread in times as well. We've got now just 3 minutes until this race gets underway, with the rolling start, of course. And we've got, I noticed we've got now two Buzz Lightyear cars at the front of this field. So Gabriel and Fraser sporting the same livery. Has Team Toy Story been properly established now?
I think they have, and I think they are planning on getting a Woody car for Gabriel. So I would expect that after the off week, maybe, and then have the pair of Woody and Buzz Lightyear hitting the road.
Well, that will be something to enjoy, I'm sure, when we do eventually see that. It will be a nice thing to see, I'm sure. Prune Tracy, then, what do we reckon with them? On familiar ground, I suppose you could say. I mean, they are in Australia, I believe. So, what do you reckon? Are they going to be comfortable here?
I think qualifying P3, you, especially on this track, you really, if you qualify high, you should be familiar with the track because it's so difficult to even get a decent competitive time if you're not familiar with the track. So I would assume he practiced a bit. I saw him practicing quite some time doing the rig. So I expect Prune Tracy to be some sort of challenge to Gabriel and Fraser for the P1 spot here.
Absolutely. And now just going through the list of people that I can see here. So I was wrong, in fact, earlier on. Pentila is in the Honda. And I must have been thinking of Karppinen as the one in the McLaren, who's a bit further back. So Pentila, then...
Both are finished, that works.
Sorry?
Both are finished, so that works.
Well, I mean, that's fair, so it's a good result from them. Then fifth on the grid, alongside McDermott in fourth position, or rather, alongside Harkema in sixth position. Hark, of course, in the silver class rather than the pro class, so they are... technically the pole sitter of their split. And so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they will sort of yield to the pro drivers around them or whether they will really get in the mix with them and try and get up the order. We saw some great overtakes and good recovery driving from them last time out in Spain. So I think they're definitely one worth having a watch as we go through this one. Pentila as well can, if they bide their time, they don't make any mistakes, they also are pretty good at the opportunistic overtake every now and then. In terms of a little bit further back down the field, of course, Donald had that good result last time out, took home a podium in Spain, as we now have just 15 seconds to go until this field gets going. And so they're now down in 7th place. They've got a bit of ground to cover if they want to get themselves back up into podium contention again and possibly even a win if anything goes wrong for the top few. Who knows? But after the fireworks last week, as we now have a light to go, I think. But nobody is moving.
Yeah, it has a little delay between start and actually the rolling start procedure starting. So we should be good to go any second.
Excellent. So we're just waiting for them to get going. There is someone in the chat saying that there is a lobby restart, but we'll hold off on just confirming that until we get any information through other channels, I suppose. But things certainly looking like they're not moving, so I'm inclined to agree with this person.
Yeah, seems to be that we have a lobby restart due to a mandatory pit stop being set, which it shouldn't, and because you don't want to pit in 20-minute race. So the probably is to restart the server to get that fixed, and I think Fraser is on it, I would assume.
Excellent, good stuff. Right, well, that just means then that we've got to just fill a little bit of time for the next few minutes here. So let's have a chat, shall we? FRS. So we teased this earlier on. Excuse me, and we'll have a look at it now. So we were talking earlier on about we've got obviously other championships that are going on in this GT series. We have, of course, the pro drivers, the overall drivers. We've then got the silver and the AM drivers as well, which we've already gone over. But in terms of constructors, well, that's an interesting story. So we've got a fight up at the top of the constructors that's relatively close. We've got 3 teams on triple figure points at the moment. We've got Aston Martin leading the way. Perhaps unsurprisingly, given the frequency of Fraser and Gabriel to be in those top positions and bringing home the majority of points for that particular constructor. We've then got BMW just behind them with 120 points. Now, whilst that sounds like a big gap, 47 points, it's obviously something that could change in a flash. We've had already 40-odd points handed out per race to Fraser and to Gabriel. So you know, any bad result from them, and then a good result for a BMW driver means that BMW could be hopping up the standings an awful lot there. We've then got McLaren in 3rd place with 115 points, so even closer between them and BMW. And it could be, even this race, we could see a change in position in the constructors' standings between those two, provided things go well, because the McLaren and the BMW, I feel like, have a relatively equal spread in terms of their the number of drivers using them in this league. And then further down the way, we've then got the cars which are a bit less represented, shall we say. So we've got Ferrari, then Honda, Bentley, Porsche, Audi, Nissan, and then Lamborghini at the back of the field. As I mentioned earlier on, Hudson, of course, the only driver for Lamborghini, and scored some points last time out. So they will be looking to, of course, improve Lamborghini's position. And I think given how well they were set to do last time, things are... excuse me, things would be easier for them as well going forward. And once they've found their legs, they should be able to get themselves into a good spot and into some good consistent point scoring. And you know, if any others start to join the series and pick the Lamborghini as well, then of course that will help that points drive too. In terms of the teams championship, we currently have 4 teams registered on the on that championship there, and I'm sure they will be joined by Team Toy Story amongst others at the end of this round. Once those teams have raced, of course, they will then be able to enter into the team championship. But we currently have Team Halfords leading the way with 136 points, then Team Pinkline, then Amundstein Racing, and Ice One. So the Finnish team, which I believe has Karpinen and Pentila and a couple of others involved. You should be able to spot them if they're driving McLarens from their Finnish flag livery, which does look rather nice. So it's 48 points for them at the back of the fields. Then Amundstein Racing in 3rd with 97 points, 102 for Team Pinkline, and then, as I say, Team Halfords with 136. So in terms of all of this going on then, so Team Halfords, of course, will have had 2 races head start on Team Toy Story. So Hummerseb, what do you think in terms of the prospects for Team Toy Story going forward? They're going to be able to overhaul 136 points head start, or will it be a bit of a tough mountain for them to climb?
I think Team Toy Story The thing is, Team Toy Story consists of 2 people, Team Halfords of 5, but pretty much Toy Story is the 2 best people around. So it will be quite interesting, actually. Probably dependent on how much practice the Team Halford people get in before the races and how good they are to compete. But over a full season, I could see Toy Story taking it despite the lack of numbers due to their consistency in taking top 3 spots.
Excellent, good stuff. Well, we'll have to wait and see how all that goes then. We've got one of the Team Halford's cars on screen at the moment, Conor McDermott's car, of course, and wonderful livery it is as well. And I like that they're able to differentiate themselves with the highlighted accent colour. So in their case, it's a nice green, but we've also got some other colours, which I'm sure we will see throughout this race today. In terms of that new lobby, how are we looking at the moment here, Hummerset?
This server currently is restarting. The thing is that ACC, despite of one, is server-based, so we have to restart it externally. And that sometimes takes 2 to 3 minutes for the server to reset and getting its shit together.
Well, hopefully it's sorted relatively soon, and we can get down to the business of some racing. It's currently 7:25 in the evening in the UK. Wherever you are in the world, however you're watching, and whatever time it is for you, I hope you're enjoying your day or evening. It's very lovely to have you here. And so we will keep an eye on how things are going as far as that's concerned. If you've got any questions, of course, as to how the GT series is run, or if there's any questions about GT cars and Assetto Corsa Competizione that you happen to have, then ask them. Let us know, and we will address them as best we can. If I don't know the answer, which, let's be honest, is fairly likely with this particular game, then we can always pass it to Hummerset.
And if I don't know it, that's fairly embarrassing.
Exactly. So there we go. We could everybody think of your most difficult question, so we can put him on the spot. So, from my understanding, we now have everybody back into a server. They've jumped into free practice, of course. And does that mean then that we're going to see another qualifying session, or?
That is an actual good question. Fraser is in voice chat with most of them, so that's might be why there isn't much text about it. We'll probably see. Might be, might not be. He might have set up the proper, how do you call it? The proper grid himself. He's currently typing. We will probably know more in a tiny bit.
Excellent, good stuff. Well, hopefully they're able to get it all sorted out, and then if not, of course, then we can always have another qualifying session. Why ever not? It'd be nice to see a bit more action. Nope, there we go. We've gone straight into a grid, getting ready to go for that rolling start. So, just got that 2 minutes 50-second countdown to go. And then everybody will be ready and getting on their way. And as is customary, we have the bouncing cars in the server. As everybody starts to load in, you'll see the front wheels drop and the car will bounce slightly. And it's something that's just quite amusing to watch, to be honest. So, in terms of that, then we're back into the session now. So we've got. Everybody just getting ready to go. 2 minutes, 25 seconds to go or so. Oh, sorry, no, I'm looking at the wrong one. I said 2 minutes, 15 seconds to go now. And we've got, everything getting ready to go. So in terms of any predictions for this one, do you have any, Hummersep, in terms of who's going to be where and that sort of thing?
No, actually. It's Bathurst. It's really because it's so tricky to constantly push your car, so it will reward. The problem is you can be rewarded by pushing a lot in the mountain section, but you can also, in the same way, just bin it. And also, it's pretty much like in Baku last week. If one car bins it, it could block like the whole road on its own, and maybe just take one car with it and then just block the whole section. So, there's some possibilities for some crazy stuff happening.
Fantastic. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing some good racing, and you never know. If there are some shambles in typical FRS style, then we will see them in due course too. So, everybody just getting ready to go then. We've got just about a minute to go until we are hopefully going to be racing this time instead of like last time when we had the countdown go down and then all of a sudden it was saying, right, well, we're now waiting and waiting. And nothing happened. So, as things are then, in these last 40 seconds or so, let me just drop a couple of facts in for you. So, in the GT series, there is no Parc Ferme. So, the guys who've been quick in quali will not necessarily be quick in the race because they may well have optimized the car for quali and gotten a good setup there. But then someone else in the field who didn't have quite as good a setup for qualifying might then have a better setup for the race that they can load. And then that might make them nice and quick. So, in terms of this then as well, of course, with Bathurst being an incredibly narrow circuit, any moves that we do see happening, I think we're going to have a bit of trading paint and some tyre rubbing and all the rest of it going on with any moves that we see there. We've now got the countdown over, and we will wait for just a moment or two, and then hopefully we'll see the cars set off and start on their way. Yes, they do this time. Fantastic. So, we're currently seeing Prune Tracy going very slowly indeed, but they're starting to get back into position now. That's good, and they are side by side with McDermott, but up at the front. It may not be one of the hometown heroes like Prune Tracy, but it is Gabriel versus Fraser as they head on down towards the start-finish line and get ready to start this race. So they're not quite so close to one another, but now they go. And it looks like Prune Tracy's gotten up the inside. Is McDermott going to have a look as well? Prune Tracy takes second place. McDermott looks to threaten Fraser for that third place, but it looks like Fraser has survived this time. Ack Dennis is up a position there, and Donald has been able to recover well from the start. A bit of tapping between the pair of them there. Another tap from the Honda that goes by, the Aston Martin, I should say, or the what car is that? That is a Honda. That's Pentila's car. And they are chasing after Harkimer now after having that fight with Donald and with Timalele just behind. And things very close there as well. We've got Williams in the middle of all this scrap here. The Nissan GTR just having a look at the back of the menagerie of cars up ahead of them. Takes an outside wider line there and then starts to power on up the hill. We've got a bunch of other cars just having a bit of a move about throughout the order here. We've got Mustavage off the back of the field, now up to 21st position, and Gabriel continues to lead this one. Prune Tracy up into second place with Fraser down in third as we head into that mountainous section. And we've got a driver well off circuit there. Who is that off to one side? I'm not entirely certain. That's Hark. Oh dear, that's not how they would have wanted things to get going in this race. Now they are now just a couple of positions ahead, I think, of Van Winsum in the Halfords car. We've got Soros as well, leader of the AMS Championship, in third place in AM at the moment and 19th overall. And then Holo, look at this. Holo goes up the inside. Or do they? No, sorry, they're on the outside. And they are... No, now they're up the inside in the black Ferrari. I believe that they are in. And as they head down this incredibly long straight, then they'll get a little bit of a draft from the BMW in front, but so will the Ferrari on the inside of Harkimer. Harkimer pushes them all the way to the outside. Look at this then, they're trying to find a way through. There's a bit of tapping between the pair of them. Oh, and big contact there. Big contact between, which one would that have been? That would have been Holo and, oh dear, what had happened there? Oh, massive incident for Hark. They come all the way back across the circuit and bang! Big crash, massive crash there between them. And I think that even though damage is harder to get in ACC, that may well be a retirement. Let's have a look at then at what's happened there. So they had this fight with Holo side by side in the Ferraris. They've then gone into the corner, gotten ahead, but just gone a bit too deep on the brakes. They've gone across the grass then, tried to recover it. They've lost the back end as they're coming back towards the circuit, gone onto the circuit and then clattered into everybody there. And then there's the big one. There's the enormous hit there from the black car behind, which he was sat in the middle of the circuit and he still got whacked into at some speed. So that's really unfortunate for them. And if the car is still running, then I'm fairly certain it's not going to be in any competitive state whatsoever. So race over, I would imagine, for them. And bit of a slide there for Timothy B. or Timolele. Oh, and then tap between them and the McLaren of Donald, I think that was. And oh dear, Karppinen goes by. So does Donald and a couple of others. And they are really down the order now. This is just the thing with Bathurst. It is a circuit which is going to absolutely destroy cars if they make a mistake or if they get involved in the wars at all. But look at this. Brune Tracy now really close to the back of Gabriel. And indeed, Fraser also, as you can see on screen at the moment, has recovered reasonably well here to get onto the back of Brune Tracy like this. So, of course, lost an awful lot of time at the start. Had a really bad start, in fact, did Fraser. And now they are right on the back of Brune Tracy, who themselves very close to the back of this Aston Martin up ahead of Gabriel. Look at this, to the inside, they think about it, and then Gabriel goes for the defence way too late. Fraser just slides it up the inside. Oh, and that just looked like Gabriel went for way too late of a defensive move, and Brune Tracy had already committed to their line. And oh dear, they give the position back either way, and also give a position through to McDermott. Let's have a look at the replay here then. So they came over the crest of the hill, down towards the left-hander they go. And it looks like the Aston comes back across the normal racing line. Brune Tracy then goes for the late dive, and the Aston comes over, just sort of moves at the same time, or just after he did. And then they both go off the circuit. Also off the circuit was McDermott there. And McDermott, the real beneficiary in all this, because Brune Tracy moves to one side to allow Gabriel back through, and then McDermott just slides up the inside as well, and up into third place. So Fraser now leads this race then at Bathurst, with Gabriel in second place, a bit of a distant second place now versus what it was a little bit earlier on. And then it's McDermott, Brune Tracy, and Pentila after them. That is your top five. We're currently on board with Karppinen, the highest placed silver driver at the moment, in 7th overall. And they are currently defending from Holo. Of course, the other Ferrari must be out of this race, if not limping around, barely able to do anything whatsoever. And so it's a straight fight between the McLaren and the Ferrari then. But the McLaren, of course, potentially going to have a scrap with Donald up ahead. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Hammerstead, what are your thoughts here now after the first 5 minutes or so of this race? We've only got 14 and a half minutes to go.
I think it's more shambles than... It looks like more than it was. It was actually a very clean lap one. Unfortunately, just Haag losing it a bit on the attempt to re-entry. It's incredibly tough to hold these cars straight if you like go on the grass and bring them onto the track without, because it can't just like brake and not go on the track. It's really tough to control the car, get onto the track or get into the hole here. But other than that, which sadly caused a little bit of a chain reaction, it was fairly clean, like for the first lap in Bathurst, which is incredibly tough to navigate through the whole mountain section with all those cars around. So I'm actually quite impressed and happy with how it went. Probably some of the drivers aren't, but it's not as bad as it might look like.
Absolutely. We've got the, I think that was the Aston Martin, the only clowns Aston Martin, right at the back of the field in Fraser's sights, in fact, to be lapped this early on. And I think in a race that was only 20 minutes long, we weren't necessarily expecting anybody to be lapped. Look at the state of that Halfords BMW there of Van Winsum. Just ahead of Kuma, as we see there. Kuma coming across the line, being pursued by Daly. Of course, Daly not in their own... Or is that Daly? That can't be Daly.
Daly is just coming out of the pits, probably, which was the...
so that'd be Williams.
Confusion, yeah.
Yes, okay, fair enough. So Williams then, not fighting for position at the moment. Looks like they've probably been lapped. And so all the way down the order, it's very difficult to keep track of who is where in this race, given all of the shambles that we've seen so far. But we certainly know where this driver is, Karppinen and Holo, in 7th and 8th, and all a little bit on their own at the moment. There is a car up ahead, but not close enough for them really to get involved in this fight at all, or to make the fight a bit more interesting. So slowly these silver drivers being dropped by the pro drivers. And as they go through here, look at the speed that Holo was able to carry through there, just using the curbs as much as they possibly can, and they were able to gain a bit there, but then I think just a bit of overcorrection then means that they were just in a position where they couldn't really then press the advantage that they'd started to gain there. Very tight to the inside there. Tighter line, in fact, than what we saw Karppinen taking up ahead, and it looks like Karppinen has maybe gotten a better exit as a result of that. Powering down the hill then, down the long back straight, and of course this will then go over to the right into a bit of a chicane, just to slow things down a bit, give that opportunity for an overtake before we then come to the 90-degree left-hander to close out the lap. Meanwhile, down in 15th position, we've got Crabtree being pursued by Agdenis in the McLaren there, and the Am driver versus the Silver driver. They will do well to keep them behind, I think. And look at this then, as they head through this mountainous section back down the hill. Massive elevation change here, and it's going to be a running theme here on the FRS Motorsports channel, because of course later on we will be broadcasting PC Division 1 in the F1 Championship, and that will be at Spa-Francorchamps with some of the biggest elevation changes that you'll see on the F1 calendar. Stick around for that later on, but for now, with the GT Series, Agdenis then continuing to circulate around and has actually overtaken Crabtree at some stage whilst we've been talking there. I didn't notice that one, I do apologise. But yep, the position has changed hands there. 15th for Agdenis, 16th rather for Crabtree. Holo and Karpinen, though, continuing to fight one another, but it looks like they're slowly making their way up towards the pack of leaders up ahead of them. If that is the case, then they may well end up getting themselves into a position where things become more difficult for both drivers. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. It looks like Holo's really looking quite racy, looking in a good position to get themselves, alongside and affect a move if they can just get that little bit closer. But Karpinen, despite the different lines that they're taking versus Holo behind, it looks like they are still putting in a very, very good effort and putting in some very good, solid lap times at the moment. You can see there just how much curb that Holo takes on that left-hander. Meanwhile, McDermott here has fallen down the order slightly, lost the position to Prune Tracy. So back down to 4th for Crusoe, and Prune Tracy up to 3rd again. And things as they were then for the top 4 on the grid, back in those starting grid positions. And now as the Bentley powers on down the straight, it looks like they're just starting to eke out a little bit of a gap to Crusoe behind. And then just taking that little bit of the apron on the left there before then chucking the car in. Look at this now. Donald very close to the back of Pentila here. Probably one of the closer battles that we can see on circuit at the moment. And then look at this. Just using a bit of the curb on the apex there. Just clipping it ever so slightly. And now, as we see from the back of Pentila, that Honda has a McLaren for company. And very close to the final corner indeed. And this is going to have to require, I think, a little bit of bravery on the brakes here on the part of Donald if they're going to want to get this move done. If they do, and it doesn't come off though, it does mean that we will likely see Karpinen and Holo gaining 2 positions each.
Yeah, also they are on the main straight, and he needs to get it done here if he wants to get it this lap, probably before the mount section. Otherwise, we will lose a point. And ooh, what happened here? We had Crusoe being off, I think.
I think you're right. Yes.
What happened here? Let's check.
Let's check. Let's have a look. I have a funny feeling it might involve the lapped car. That's just in the foreground of the shot that we saw before that. So it might not do. We never know. It might just be driver error here. So up into the braking zone they come then for the corner.
Oh,
they're just,
their
there
own
you go.
teammate. Unfortunate. Ah.
Oh dear, that's what happens. That's what happens when you try and lap somebody. And I feel like there could have been more effort on the Aston's part to get out of the way, especially, as you say, for your own teammate. But as it was, maybe as well, there could have been an element of, I mean, it's one of those incidents where I think if it was ever to be looked at by stewards, I doubt very much it will be, but if it was, then it would be judged as a racing incident, because, I mean, you could argue that both drivers could have done more to avoid that incident, but as it is, I think that apportioning blame at this point is not going to help either one of them. So that's 1 position gain then for all these guys that we've been watching then. So we've got Donald being on the back of Pentila, and then, of course, Karpinen and Holo just behind as well. They've all gained a position each, and still very, very close between these two. As we look on board now with Donald, it just looks like that Honda just scampers away ever so slightly in the earlier part of the straight. We'll have to wait and see as to how good an exit they get out of here. It looks like, to me, it looked like a bit of a slower corner there for the final turn. And all this fighting is going on and allowing Karpinen to get that little bit closer lap after lap. So if this continues for the next 7 minutes, we might well see a 4-way battle here, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, that gap is coming down, you can see. And yeah, things are incredibly close, and it's like what you've been talking about in the last couple of streams that we've done on ACC Hummersep. The overtakes are not like F1, where they're a bit more, heat at the moment. I'm going to go for it now, down up the inside. It's something that you have to calculate and think about for many laps before you then execute it.
Yeah, and I also think, if I remember correctly, the Honda's straight line speed is quite good compared to the McLaren. So I think Donald will struggle to overtake on this lap, or at least on this track at least, because you can't really do it in the mountain section. But the Honda excels on the long straights where you usually overtake, so it will be quite a tough one for him to overtake.
Absolutely, yeah. And another driver who's looking to get the overtake done is this one, Holo. They are really bombing it around at the moment. You can see the car moving underneath them with the amount of effort that they're putting in trying to catch up to the back of Karppinen and get something done. Towards the start of this second sector, they were looking very close indeed, actually. But then as the sector's gone on, I think just the effects of dirty air and all the rest of it, I mean, obviously it's lessened versus, say, an F1 car. And these are closed-wheel cars, of course. So that aerodynamic wake is not as destructive as in an F1 car. And as they head down then, it might be that we maybe see something happen here. Oh, maybe, no! And there's just a tap up the back of Karppinen there from Holo. I think that was a case of Holo not knowing which side Karppinen was going to go. And then by the time they committed, they had gotten a bit too late on the brakes, thought about it too much, and went up the back of the McLaren. As things are, though, they backed off properly there. Allowed Karppinen to rejoin the circuit ahead of them and didn't try to then capitalise on them having dirty tyres or anything like that. So fair play to Holo. And up ahead does mean that gap is now extended again between Karppinen and Donald.
Yeah, also nice to see that pretty much in every incident someone gained an advantage from some unlucky touch or going off track or whatever. People always opted to give back the position immediately, which is really nice to see.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's, I mean, I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again, but the FRS is a very good community, I think, overall. Very wholesome, very nice. We have our jokes, and we have all that sort of thing going on, but it's a very good community nonetheless. Good races, all with a good intention in terms of, wanting to race and make friends for the sake of doing it, rather than in pursuit of glory and all that sort of thing. Although maybe it depends on who you ask, because certainly Fraser and Gabriel may well disagree with me on that one. And you can see there, Johansson going by.
Elliot was hitting the wall here, unfortunately.
I see, right. Dear oh dear, that is not what we want to see from them. Crabtree, nice and close to the back of Daly at the moment. Obviously, we saw earlier on that there was a swap in position with Crabtree and... actually forget who the driver was, but up the inside they go. And an easy move there for 14th position from Daly. And that McLaren overtaken by the Aston. That will not be helping them in terms of the Constructors' Championship, I'm sure. And look at this then, Holo still close to the back of Karppinen. That gap has come back down again to what it was sort of pre-accident. And yeah, things are very close between these two. Have been all race long, and I think that that tap up the back is maybe just a sign of how close things have been between the pair of them, because they have just been on such a limit where the moment that you overstep it ever so slightly, it means that then you end up getting incidents like the one that we saw. So Johansson then on the back of De Bruyne.
It's on Cruiser, who's a lap down.
Never mind, I'm talking nonsense. So Johansson then, presumably waiting for Crusoe to obey the blue flag instruction and get out of the way. But it certainly doesn't look like that's the case so far. And the 9th place driver will be wanting to chase on after De Bruyne, for example. And oh dear, that's Cooks. Cooks has cooked it. And let's have a look here what happened then. So in the Audi, only one in the field. They go to the... what's this going to be? To the outside, I think, of the upcoming chicane, is that? Yep, so they go to the outside, and then, they lost it all on their own. That's the most bizarre incident I've ever seen.
It's not that crazy. I can show you in a bit, because the slight turn to the right there, you can take it flat, but it's somewhat of a crest and it's fairly bumpy. Like maybe you can get a feel for it on board with Veltring. You hit this right-hander here, but it's like slightly bumpy. It's not actually like. Okay, it looked fairly smooth over here. But
Look at this, it's not bumpy at all. Boom.
but actually, it's
dear.
not as crazy as you might think from watching to bottle it there. But it's like a little crest and it's slightly bumpy. So if you tap the brakes or if you anything you didn't expect is happening, then you might actually lose it. It's not as crazy as you might think from just watching it.
Well, there we go then. So, Pentila continues to run around in 4th place ahead of Donald, but that gap has been coming down this entire time. You can see there the flashing lights have been deployed by Donald, trying to upset and potentially influence their rival. Maybe just distract them as they come into a braking zone, make them brake a bit too late, bit too deep, or maybe too early, and allow them to just gain that little bit more time. And as we see here, that gap does not really want to come down at all down the straight there. And as they head up the hill now, things still very close between them.
It's also in the last lap. Yep, this is the last lap. Oh, and then he wins it. I was about to say he really needs to push if he wants to get the overtake done, but that pretty much seals the deal, and it's probably up on Holo to chase Carpenter now and maybe make it happen this lap, which is unlikely though after not making it the entire previous race or having this back and forth all the time.
Absolutely. So, things very close between the pair of them, but it looks like things are not going to change unless, of course, coming up onto the back of Donald up ahead here maybe presents an opportunity for either driver to gain another position, and then something happens because Donald is clearly limping at the moment after that incident with the wall. Meanwhile, up at the front, it's been a rather uneventful race, I think, for Fraser overall. There was that incident between Gabriel and Prune Tracy earlier on, which forced the pair of them off the circuit, and Fraser found their way through up into the lead, and since then, they've gone unchallenged. Fraser, it looks like now, crosses the line and wins this first 20-minute race of the evening. We will have the 40-minute race to come, and Fraser will start on pole for that one, I believe, unless it's a reverse grid, potentially?
It isn't. It
Or is it
isn't.
just-
Given the track Bathurst is, we wanted to avoid, especially since we have like the skill difference. Reverse grid wouldn't be a good, what's it called? A good experience for anyone.
Fair enough. Well, that's that then. That is that first race out the way and done. Holo then comes home to take 7th place. So 2nd in the silver class and 17th overall. 7th overall, I should say, rather than 17th overall. That's their number, I do apologise. And, yeah, good effort from them to bring it home in 7th place. They obviously would have wished for that 6th place after they'd chased Carpenter all race long, potentially even the 5th place after seeing the incident up ahead with Donald, and then them slowing down as a result. But, as things are, a good race all around, I think. If we ignore some of the incidents that may well have happened earlier on, with drivers coming a cropper with the walls and the barriers. A very good race around Bathurst, as you would expect. We've got a few more drivers left to come across the line. But what did you think of that one then, Hamasep, overall?
It was overall, unfortunately, some few incidents, but overall, great race, nice racing. I mean, it's the pretty much qualifying, so it might be that people didn't risk it too much, or even maybe probably risk even a bit more because it's not a proper race and you only lose quali positions. But I'm really excited for the next race, especially with 40 minutes, where you can make a mistake, but you can also count on other people making some mistakes, maybe.
Absolutely. Well, 40-minute race to come then. So that will take us through to around about 20 to 9 UK time. Because, of course, we've got to wait for everybody to finish. We've got to get those results in and then get a new race made that will then be that will then have the right order on the grid. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Still got one car out on circuit, it looks like, and according to what I can read here, it's Fraser. I don't know whether that's a glitch, perhaps, or something along those lines, but oh, there we go. They pop back into their box there. So there we go. That's the main thing. So everybody in the pits now then. Everybody just waiting for the next instructions then. So in terms of that one then, so that is going to give us a good idea as to what's happening there then. So despite the pole position going into that one, Gabriel comes home second rather than first. So Fraser will extend their lead at the top of the table for that one. 10 laps in total that we ran in Bathurst there. With a gap of about 5 seconds, 5.5 seconds between Fraser and Gabriel as they came across the line, and another 5 seconds gap between Gabriel and Prune Tracy. And in terms of some highlights, well, we'll talk you through some of those other classes. So Carpin and Hola coming home 1 and 2 for the silver class, of course, 6th and 7th overall in the race. Johansson then having a good race and coming home 3rd in the silver class, 9th overall. Then Kuma came home with the win in the AM class, 11th overall, with then Callas and Crabtree in 2nd and 3rd respectively in the AM class, but then 13th and 14th in terms of their finishing positions. One of the closest finishes on track between any two drivers as well, with the 4/10ths gap between Crabtree and Callas as they came across the line. So clearly, drivers of a similar skill level staying near to one another in that race. So in terms of moving forward with the other races, we've now got the grid being prepared, and Van Winsum telling us in the server chat that we will sort by class for the next race. So it might well be that we end up seeing a slightly different order to that which we saw finishing on track overall. So we might see all the pro drivers up at the front, then the silver drivers, and then the AM drivers at the back.
That is correct, indeed. Yeah, that's what I figured as well. Probably was a bit of like short notice. I don't 100% know, but like given we are like this is our first season, we are 100% aware that things are work in progress. So they probably figured it out, because I thought about it as well, with a few cars being down there behind AM here wouldn't be that great. So sorting it by class, I think, is the way they decide to go now, which I don't hate.
Absolutely, yeah, and well, things are close between an awful lot of the drivers in the field, and especially when you take a look at the guys who are the top of their class. If they're not in the pro class, then they can certainly challenge some of the pros, and similarly with the guys at the top of the AM class as well, they can challenge the silvers and even some of the pros as well. The results speak for themselves with that. I mean, we've had at least what I can see, 4 of the drivers that finished behind Kuma there, or Callas I should say, were pro drivers. We've also got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 silver drivers that finished behind the top 2 in the AM as well. So things very, very close indeed. We've got... oh no, actually this may well be a different view that I'm seeing, because we've got Helget in 2nd place, or Fraser I should say, in 2nd place, even though they won that race. So this may well be an adjustment of the qualifying order that we're seeing just being processed at the moment. But once we get going, hopefully it'll be a nice and easy one here. In terms of the other rounds to come this season, of course, next time out we're going to be at Spa-Francorchamps, and you can have a preview of what it is like to drive around that track in fast cars if you stick around for the F1 PC Division 1 stream later on. It should start pretty much as this one finishes, really. We'll either have 8:45 or 9 o'clock UK start for that one, and we're predicting somewhere in the region of about 22:09 or 8:45 finish for this upcoming race as well. Then later on in the calendar, we're going to be going to... where are we going to be going to? We're going to be going to the USA, we're going to be going to South Africa and to Germany as well. There's also a 7th round that says Ken, and it looks like it has a prancing horse as the flag, so I'm going to feign ignorance on that one and simply nod and agree and say, yes, we're going there. No idea where, but yes, we're going there. And that will be round number 7. after the USA, of course. So, Australia 1, we've had the results. Australia 2, yet to come. Hummusab, in terms of this then, in terms of just waiting for things to get going again, what are the drivers of that race going to be thinking if they've, if they've had a bit of a shocker in that race? Is this now an opportunity to redeem themselves, or is it more just damage limitation for where they will have finished in the order?
It's tough to redeem it for yourself with which is in your own power, because as we said, how difficult it is to overtake. You can redeem it for yourself by being far back, but pretty much if shambles happen and you are able to avoid them, I'd say, or if you have a consistent race and people hit the walls occasionally and just being safe and consistent, you can get a solid grid advancement over the race. But it's tough to say. If everyone is driving decent, it's not really, I think, realistic for you to get 10 plus positions just because you are good and race well, because therefore it's too slow and too tough to overtake in those GT cars compared to F1 cars.
Absolutely, yeah. And those F1 cars, of course, we'll be seeing some bits and pieces from them later on. Yeah, we're just waiting now for everything to get going once again then. We're back onto the server browser and just waiting for the server to be set up and ready to go. Honestly, we do enough filling here that we should... I don't know. Do you know, I started that pun without having one in mind. Come back to me on that one. I'll have something later on, I'm sure.
We have also some quick update on the grid, because actually it is in fact the grid from the sprint quali disregarding classes. There was a quick discussion, but we decided to go with what we initially communicated, because sorting by class actually would make the overall standing a bit obsolete, because if you sort by class now, then if, for example, Tekkonen, who finished P3 as a silver driver, would get a huge disadvantage here. So it's going to be pretty much the standings we just had, but it might be discussed for future races how we will handle it.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for that update. And then in terms of that, then, so we're not going to see a separation of classes. We're not going to see anybody getting massively shuffled around. There's not going to be any reverse grids either. That, of course, as Hummusab says, may well change in the future, but that is the plan for this evening. And certainly around a circuit like this, well, it's something which you're not going to be all that looking forward to. So yes, let's have a look then at this calendar then. So we've got Laguna Seca as our round in the USA after Spa. Then we've got Brands Hatch, which is what the prancing horse flag must have been representing. Then we've got Kyle Army for a 20-minute sprint and a 40-minute race, as we are having at the moment. And then the season will round out with that event in Germany. So, as you can see on screen as well, we've got Team Toy Story and the car of Fraser, currently being run also by Gabriel, of course. Gabriel having just joined the team. And Woody Car is in the works to be able to have some differentiation between the pair of them. Because, of course, when they've got the exact same livery, it's a bit more difficult for us to figure out who is who in the heat of the moment and the action. So it'll be nice when they are a bit more distinctive from one another. But it's a fun livery, and I'm always impressed by the creativity of all the drivers in the series who use their own custom liveries and come up with stuff that either looks absolutely fabulous and ridiculous, like this, or something realistic, like the Halfords livery, for example.
Yeah, we actively, or at least I do, because I stream it, actively encourage custom liveries, because it's such a fun thing. It looks great. It's just fun to have this fake or real sponsors. Like for our Armenstein racing cars, we will include Artori Motorsports, who just made cool logos and stuff, and it's very fun to add those little details. Some guys have some tags on their back, like flash if you like want to overtake or something like that. I don't know. And it's quite fun. It adds some fun little details. And
Well, I'm just waiting for the moment when someone drops in a sort of, how's my driving? Call this number on the back of the car. And then that number be something like the local police station or something like that. That would be quite but there we are then. So,
it's my driving, call 911.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So we've now got a free practice session that everybody is loading into here. It says 4 minutes on the clock, but I doubt very much they'll be waiting that long because this will likely just be to get everybody into the session. And once everybody is there, we'll then crack on and get racing. Which should be good fun. So we're just waiting now for everybody to join into the session, and then we will get into that race as well. We've got a number of cars already in at the moment, 21 out of the 23 or so that we had racing in the first round. Just put a QR code that Rick rolls you on the back of the car, says False Tax. Well, that's a very good idea, actually. I'm tempted to do something along those lines. Anyway, do you know, this is apologies everybody, this is where we get into a bit more sort of podcasty territory rather than focusing on what's going on, because we're just waiting for the lobby to set up. But near to me, where I live, there's one of these underpasses, right? Goes underneath a train line, so it's the way for you to be able to safely cross to the other side of where the train tracks are. And I mean, if you've ever been to any underpass in a British city, it looks terrible. There's peeling paint off the walls, there's some sort of leak in there, there's other things that are far too unsavory for me to mention on a stream, that is of course family friendly. And some locals have got some sort of petition going on in order to, get the council to listen and to get it clean and safe for everybody to use. And it's an admirable goal, absolutely an admirable goal. However, as part of it, they do have a QR code on the little posters that they've put up all around the entrance of it in order to try and get people's attention. And I do think about something like that, something like what False Tax has said there. If someone were to just come over and just to, bit of sellotape, put a new QR code over the top, and it'd be a link to something like a Rickroll or something perhaps a bit more risque. It's whatever it is, I will simply will it into being. I will hope that somebody out there decides, yep, I know the exact one you're on about, I'm going to go and put something on it, and it be wholesome and funny. Anyway, yes. End of that particular tangent. We are still waiting to go here, and there's not all that much to talk about, I'm afraid. So it's just one of those things. We've just got to fill time. We've got to talk about whatever we can. Speaking of things that we can talk about, though, in terms of motorsports, Hummersep, let's get your opinion. We've had 4 Formula 1 cars, well, technically 3 Formula 1 cars launch, as we now have the 3-minute countdown for the race to get underway with the rolling start. In real life F1, we've had three of the cars revealed properly and the livery of one. What do we think so far, in your opinion? Which one's your favourite?
The Haas, of course. No.
The Haas.
I honestly overall, I like the Aston Martin the most. Did they reveal the Alpine? I just read that they will have pink in it a little bit more, but I didn't see if they already released it, because I know of the Aston Martin, the McLaren, and the Haas. What was the fourth car that got released?
Well, the fourth one was the Red Bull, but the Red Bull was just the show car with their standard Red Bull livery on it, so it doesn't really count. But the Alpine, I think, middle of next week. I believe that tomorrow is AlphaTauri. That has been, well, it's thought that one has been leaked. I've seen the image of it. It certainly looks fairly legitimate. So if that's the one that ends up coming out, then it's again another slightly different design, which is good, because of course everybody was worried about, all the cars are going to look the same, and they don't, which is good. But the livery looks, it's. I mean, you'll still recognise it. It's still an AlphaTauri. You'll be able to look at it and go, yep, sure, it's dark blue and white. But from the brief shot that I saw, or the shot that's in a sort of a bit of a compromised location because someone's clearly trying to take a photo of it whilst not being seen by cameras or colleagues or whatever is going on. It doesn't look as stunning as the last two Alpha Tauris have been, in my opinion. So hopefully there are some revisions to it or some changes, or that it's just not a legitimate leak at all, because I know that certainly an awful lot of people in the FRS also like the aesthetic of the Alpha Tauri. So we'll have to wait and see. I think for me though, personally, I mean, as if it needed asking, but or answering rather, but the McLaren for me is the best one. I do like the Aston as well. The Aston, I mean, I'm a sucker for a green livery when it works. I didn't think that it worked all too much on the Aston last year because of the shade of green that they went for. But this year it looks a much more attractive car in terms of the look. But yeah, it's the McLaren for me, then the Aston, then the Haas, and then Red Bull at the back because Red Bull cheated, and they can do one.
I like the McLaren a lot, but I don't like the slight change in orange tone they took. It got a bit darker, and I preferred the previous orange tone in like way more. It was just more fitting and less aggressive. I don't know. I just prefer the previous orange tone for that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think that it looks a bit too day glow orange now. It's lost the papaya a little bit, in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe when we actually see it out on circuit instead of under lights and on a stream or on a render and all that sort of thing, when it's out in the natural daylight, it might look better. And we're off. So the grid is on its rolling start then. So they'll come through the final turn in just a moment's time. Fraser then leading the pack this time with Gabriel alongside and Prune Tracy just behind. And they've already got a bit of a gap going on here to the guys behind who have not gotten themselves back up into a position to follow. And it looks to me as though Pentila has forgotten that they're in fourth rather than in fifth. They're alongside Donald, but not alongside Prune Tracy. Fraser is now gone. Prune Tracy is up the inside. Is he going to get another move done into turn one like he did on Fraser? No, not on this occasion. Look at this. Further back now, Donald has been able to get a move done on Pentila, I think, coming out of turn number one. It depends how their drive up the hill has been there. And no, it looks like, yes, the Honda has gotten back ahead of the McLaren. Holo looks like has had a good start. They are right on the back of Donald at the moment. Donald looks to the outside, and there's the defense to the inside for the Honda. The Honda just stays there, and it looks like Pentila has been able to keep hold of that one then. Meanwhile, further down the order, we've got McDermott here down in 19th position after the horrible incident they had when they were lapping one of their teammates in Team Halfords in the last race, and there was a bit of a clip between the pair of them. They end up sailing down the order, and now they're up to 15th position. Good recovery from them so far. And then we've got Timalele all the way down in 22nd position after some shambles in the first few laps of that last one, and things are looking much better for them so far. The car has all the wheels on the wagon, and they are making some good progress already. Look at this then. McDermott has the racing bug in him. Look at this. Goes to the outside of the Nissan in the mountain section. Look at that. Round the outside as they start to head back down the hill. Brilliant, brave move from Crusoe there. And they are now onto the back of one of the McLarens now. This is on Callis, I'd imagine. And they are having a look to the inside. That big, chunky BMW might be intimidating in the mirrors, but it certainly hasn't scared the McLaren out of the way this time. The McLaren does move to the inside, though, and now round the outside goes the BMW of Crusoe. And then the McLaren just tucks in behind then. And Crusoe will continue on their march to try and get back up into the higher points. Look at this, though. Donald makes their move, but makes it far too late. Look at that. Way too late on the brakes. And Holo also late on the brakes. That's going to give advantage to Karppinen. Karppinen comes by not one, but two cars. Look at that there. Karppinen has taken two positions in one corner because both the cars had just outbraked themselves, gone way too deep there onto the brakes. And, well, that is a cautionary tale if ever I saw one. Donald down to 6th, Holo down to 7th. Meanwhile, we've got Williams here up at 13th, improving on their starting position. And things looking very good for them in the Nissan GTR. Certainly much better than things were looking for them in the last race. And now we've got Hola then under pressure from Johansson behind. Johansson, of course, finishing just behind them in terms of the standings in silver class last time out in that 20-minute race. But I'm sure they'll be keen to get something else done here and actually fight for a higher position. Maybe even get a chase on after Karppinen. But they need to be careful because just behind them is Van Winsum and De Bruyne. two drivers who are quick and looking to get a better result for themselves versus what they got in that 20-minute race earlier on. So as they head on back up the hill then, here's a rundown of your order. We've got Fraser out in front, followed by Gabriel, then Prune Tracy, then we've got Pentila, Karpinen, Donald, Holo, Johansson, Van Winsum, De Bruyne, Kuma, McDermott, Williams, Callis, Daly, Dennis, who we're on board with at the moment, then Manning, then Crabtree, Timilele, Harkimer, Cook, Soros, and then Hicks. And we got a message during that last race from Restform that Soros's table clamp for his wheel actually came off during that last race. So it is a mission of recovery for Soros now. Of course, leading the AM Championship going into this one, but now big point swing against them, it seems. So as they head back down the hill then, things are close between this mid-pack battle here with sort of 14th down to... or is this 15th? No, it's 14th. Yep, 14th with Callis at the head of this field, being chased by Daly in the red McLaren. You can see there, second in the queue. And then we've got Actenis and Manning just behind them as well. So as they head on down this straight then, it looks like there's going to be a move to the inside from Daly. They go up the inside of the AM McLaren, and it looked like maybe we just had to dive off of the accelerators there and onto the brakes. It looks like Callis goes quite deep, though, and that's going to give the undercut and the switchback to... Oh, where is it? Or is it indeed? No, it doesn't look like it. And now coming into the braking zone, it looks like there might be a move up the inside. Look at this now. The McLaren having to just swing all the way around the outside. Amundsen racing car is then going on to the start-finish straight now. It looked like they were under threat from McDenny's behind as they were trying to overtake Callis in front. Meanwhile, Manning is involved with this group as well. And just thinking, well, the moment they make a mistake, I'm going to be able to take advantage of that. So we've now got Holo on our screens, chasing after... Oh, and look at this as well. We've got now Van Winsum in that fight now with Johansson, and Johansson takes the position back. Let's have a look at this. Oh, no, sorry, I do apologize. Johansson was up ahead, and then their teammate is the one that we've seen come through. Is Van Winsum Team Pinkline, or are they Team Halford?
Halford, and De Bruyne is Team Pinkline.
So De Bruyne, the one who got the move done then. The pro driver making their way back up through the field and up towards those other pro drivers at the head of this field. Meanwhile, Pentila, and it's now a McLaren behind them once again, but this time it's Karpinen. And it's a good performance from Karpinen here, it must be said, because they are really quite close to the back of the pro driver ahead of them. And certainly not letting them go, although I don't think that we've got the likelihood of a move on anytime soon, unfortunately for them. It might be a very long race that they're now having to bed into, as we have 34 minutes to go.
Yeah, and...
Meanwhile, back up front. Oh, yeah, sorry, go on.
Just the same, pretty much. Top field pretty much settled on Helge, Gonsalves, Tracy. They usually have their fairly consistent lap times, so I would not expect a crazy change here anytime soon. Meanwhile, having Walrus actually overtaking, or Daly overtaking cars here. Ooh, and also Tech just lost 2 positions to Daly and Manning, I think it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, interesting. And then, as we see here as well, look at this. Akdeni is now under threat from Timilele. Timilele goes round the outside in the exit of the chicane on the back straight, then up the inside into the final turn. And that's another position gained for them. Team Amundsen having a good run so far. Or actually, I should double check, actually. Is he a Team Amundsen?
Yes, he is.
He is, yes, I thought so. So we've got Manning then on the charge, has just gotten a position over Callis there. And also on Daly in the other McLaren, the red McLaren you can see there, as they head down towards turn number 2. The right-hander as they then start to head up the hill. Is the McLaren going to think about a move up the inside? No, not on this occasion. They brake early, take that tighter inside line, and they'll have to bide their time and then get a move done later on in the lap, or potentially even next lap. Meanwhile, we've got this nice tight battle, this 3-way battle here between Timilele, Callis, and Daly. And they're all nice and tightly close and packed together at the moment. So close, in fact, it looks like the red car is just pushing Callis up the hill here with... Oh, I should apologise, actually. No, it's Akdeni's and at the back there in the white McLaren in the rear view that you can see. Then it's Callis up ahead, and then it's Timilele as the driver that we are on board with at the moment in their Aston Martin. So, as they start to head back down the hill again, It's very, very close between these guys, and as they come through this tight and twisty section here, it looks an awful lot like Akdenis is closer to Timalele than Timalele is to Callis ahead. But that being said, all it takes is a mistake from one, and all of a sudden we've got a race on between these guys. But as things are, it's just following line astern at the moment, because of course it is so difficult to overtake around this circuit. As we continue to pound on down the hill, then down towards that chicane, the Aston gets closer and closer and closer, pulls to the inside. Will there be a move into the chicane then? It looks very, very close between them. It looks like they might even be done before then. Yes, it is. Look at that. So they are by. Akdenis is by as well. And Callis has dropped 2 positions in one straight.
Great move as well. Just a slight bump, which can happen, but other than that, great move. And also still a great clean race this far, even like way better than last one. Great lap 1. A little bit of shambles at the back, but I think nothing too crazy happened with too many cars involved. But other than that, great race so far. I'm actually excited to see this. It's quite a nice one.
Absolutely, yeah, I completely agree. It feels like that first race, the drivers were maybe getting their eye in, getting their shambles out of their system, and now things are resembling what we were more used to seeing, and that is some good quality racing, clean wheel-to-wheel racing, I should say, in the FRS. So, as they power on through the mountainous section here in Bathurst, we've got then they've reached the top of the hill, and now they'll start to descend again. And Donald is on the chase now, back towards Karppinen and Pentila. Of course, they spent most of that last race behind Pentila with only a cigarette paper between the pair of them. But now they've lost that position in pursuit of them.
We had some incident on, I think, Kasper here, Johansson. He was yellow flagged and then out, I think. If I'm not mistaken, we should see something coming up over here in a bit. Yeah, okay. Oh, there we go. Ah, that's unfortunate. Lost it a little, but didn't lose too much time. Shouldn't have too much damage here, and probably should go on just losing his position. And still third in his silver division as we speak.
Yeah, still third, as you say, and it's very close between the pair of them. Between Johansson, we've now got McDermott just ahead of them. Or is that Van Winsum? No, that'll be Van Winsum, actually, just ahead of them. The timing tower will not have updated yet. And they've now got Williams just behind them as well to contend with. Williams, of course, one of the AM drivers, currently leading the AM class, in fact, as they pound round with now just under 30 minutes to go in this race. And things are interesting here because, of course, in Bathurst, as we've been seeing all the way through here, the overtakes can happen, but they usually require a mistake from somebody. So we're now just watching then as, look at this, the Nissan comes up to the outside then, is going to try and hang it all the way around the outside of Johansson. Johansson's right up on the curbs, has nowhere else to go, as Williams really crowds them out there. Williams gets a good exit up the hill as well. That Nissan gets some really good traction, probably on account of its four-wheel drive. And then as they head up through the left-hander up the hill here, the Porsche gets just a bit more time back on them. But it looks like things are just... everybody's just biding their time. They're making their moves where they can and taking advantage of other drivers making mistakes. But in terms of these fights, it's not getting too side by side, really. It's mostly following single file for the majority of the time. So we've now got the McLaren of Akdenis versus Daly. And these two guys, both in the silver class, both looking to have a good old grand time. And they are also looking at currently 1, 2, 3, 4. They're in 5th and 6th in the silver class at the moment as well. So good points on offer for them at the moment. So they're going to be keen not to make any contact with one another. And looks like there's no contact so far between Donald and Karppinen. Donald trying to make the move happen up the inside into the left-hander at the end of that chicane. And, well, it didn't seem to come off for them that time. But it looks like now, as we go through the final turn, could it be then that Karppinen is now just starting to feel the pressure slightly? It looks like they're further away from Pentila than they were when the last time we checked in on this particular fight. And of course, they've got Donald right up there, Jaxie as well. So 5th for Karpinen, 6th for Donald, and 4th for Pentila up ahead. Now, will Donald be able to get by his fellow McLaren driver? Or will they have to... Well, they might do in just a second's time. This looks like a repeat. Yeah, it's an even cleaner repeat of what we saw between Johansson and Williams last time around. The higher class driver able to just... or rather, it was the lower class driver before, but the attacking driver at least being able to just soar around the outside, get good traction up the hill, and be able to power on by. So Donald up into 5th then. They will try and get onto the back of Pentila, and then once they are there, hopefully we'll see a bit more of a fight between those two versus what we saw last time. Kuma is just ahead of this BMW that we're on board with at the moment, and things very close between them. Meanwhile, they've got the Team Halford's car, the only Clown's car, just behind them as well. And of course, if either one of these Beamers makes a mistake, the Aston will pounce on that mistake. No questions asked, I'm sure. So, Kuma takes some lines which are maybe a bit more conservative through this section here. You can definitely see that the car we're on board with at the moment is taking much more aggressive lines. It's paying off for them. They're getting very close to the back of the BMW ahead, who's taking much shallower lines as well, it must be said, in defense of their position. It's Manning that we're on board with throughout that, and Kuma, of course, 2 classes below them. So there's a bit of a skill gap going on here. And oh, big incident! Someone's gone through something, and now Holo has dropped down a couple of positions. That's allowed McDermott and De Bruyne to go through past them, and now it's a drag race between the pair of them. We're going to have a look at the replay now. And look at this then. They come down down the hill through the left-hander. They then power on down behind the Ferrari. And Hola then just moves over to the left. I think they're just trying to keep out of the way of that fight because they keep straddling rather the grass. They then come by. And okay, maybe it was just some strange particle effects going off, but certainly the 2 Beamers managed to get by, and as we cut back to the live feed, it looks like things have remained as they were. So De Bruyne still ahead of McDermott, but they're coming down now towards the second corner, and now it looks like as McDermott moves to the outside, if they can get late on the brakes and alongside the Team Pink Line car, then they could end up doing what we saw Williams do. No, they've gone a bit too late on the brakes, bit too deep, and that's allowed De Bruyne to get away, and it's also allowed Holo to come up and pass them once more in their Ferrari, which looks comically small compared to the BMW. The BMW just sends it straight back up the inside again. And now up the hill they go, and they'll need to gain all that time back on De Bruyne, and potentially with a bit of damage on board that car as well. Meanwhile, it's the top 2. We've not seen these guys for a long while. And whilst Fraser might be out in front by looks like a couple of seconds at this point, the fight is continuing pretty hard between Prune Tracy and Gabriel. Gabriel in second place at the moment in the Team Toy Story car. Prune Tracy in their own design as they pound round in the Bentley behind, and they're getting closer and closer. We might be able to see something happen here. They take a wider line on entry to the first part of this chicane at the back straight here, and then through the left-hander they go, then the right, and things still very close between them. But I don't think we're going to see a move happening this time. We might potentially see something if Prune Tracy is able to get a really good exit through this final turn here, and then through turn 1 at the end of this start-finish straight. We could potentially see something happening into turn number 2. We'll have to wait and see. We're on board with Johansson once again then, who's behind Van Winsum, who has a front end that looks like a bulldog's face. Not them, the car, but they... I feel like I'm going to get in trouble for that. But the car certainly looked like it had been in less wars in the past. But it looked a bit damaged there as they came by, unless they have some sort of special scratched paint job. But now, Denny's then, behind Daly. This fight has been going on for a number of laps as well. And look at that, time has flown by. I think the last time I looked at the clock, it was just under half an hour. That feels like only a couple of minutes ago, and now we're just under 23 minutes to go in this one. So, Fraser was able to complete 10 laps in 20 minutes. We've got 40 minutes this time around. I'm guessing we'll get to about 20 laps, if that theory holds true. Although, maybe, given the longer period of time the race is taking over and no pit stops, it could mean that it might be less than that. Hummus, any guesses? Are you going to commit to 19, 20, maybe even 18 or 21 laps for this one?
Oh, it's a tough one because it's also, especially one lap, is dependent on how when the leader finishes the race. But I think with less shambles, like with the lesser amount of incidents we had, and Fraser having a solid amount of lap, we should actually be on the higher end here. And we might as well take the cooldown time to welcome the Herrington Raiders from Division 3, I think it was.
Hello, everybody.
We will be hopping onto the Div 1 F1 race right after this one, which should start pretty much after this one. We might, probably not, because Fraser is here as well. They probably delay it by 5 to 10 minutes, and we pretty much should have a fluent transition from here to F1. If you're here for the first time for ACC, feel free to ask questions about the game. It's quite different from F1, and we are happy to answer any of them.
We certainly are, or at least the ones that we can, which in my case is not many of them. I'm a bit of a newbie to ACC myself, but I'll endeavour to try and entertain you nonetheless. So then, we have Act Denny's on the back of Daly. And look at this now, big overspeed from Act Denny's here. They go to the outside into the chicane at the end of the back straight. And then as they go through the left here, it looks like they're going to be able to then get a good drive through. Perhaps, no, Daly's been able to hang on to that one. So now down the remainder of the back straight they go towards the final corner. This right-angled left-hand turn here. Both drivers just a little bit wide of that apex curb, and now they power down the start-finish straight, and it looks like Daly is starting to just stretch their legs ever so slightly and get a little bit more of a gap in front of Act Denny's. Good bit of racing here, and you can hear that fantastic sound of the McLaren on board, and
I love it.
Good throaty engine. Oh yes, absolutely, it's a fantastic motor. 20 minutes to go in this one then, so about 10 to 9 UK time we'll finish this race. And look at this though, this battle up in the top 3 positions between 2 and 3. Prune Tracy in the Bentley and Gabriel in the Aston Martin, or the second Aston Martin we should say, because there in the front of your shot was Fraser in the other Aston Martin of Team Toy Story. So they're going to keep on pounding around, I'm sure, right to the end of this one. No mistakes at all from these guys so far, in this race at least. In the first race we had earlier on, the 20-minute race, that was it was a bit of a mistake on the part of these two drivers, allowed Fraser to sneak up the inside and take the win on that one. Because the pair of them went off circuit. In this one, though, Fraser has led from the start and has not shown any signs of slowing down or giving up that position. Meanwhile, Gabriel and Prune Tracy have been incredibly close to one another the entire time. Meanwhile, further down the order, we've got Van Winsum here in a bit of a sandwich at the moment, with Williams ahead of them in the bright purple Nissan GTR that you can see there. And then just behind them is Johansson in the Porsche. Team Pinkline there versus Team Halfords. So they take that little bit extra track limits there just to be able to then send it over round to the right. And then look at that big slide, way too late on the brakes for Johansson. And that has been punished, I'm sure. Look at this now, Act Denny's versus Daly. It's happening again. And Act Denny's gets up the inside this time. As they go through the corners, round the outside at that point, and then through they go. Is there an FRS endurance race planned on ACC? I'll leave that question to you, Hummerser.
Yes, and we haven't planned doing our race on our own, but we as FRS are participating in endurance events with multiple teams. We currently signed up for an endurance league over from the guys at ACCSS, which consists of 4 races distributed all over the year, which starts with 6 hours of Imola. I don't know exact order. I think then it's 8 hours Silverstone, 24 hours Kyalami, and 8 something hours in Bathurst or something. And we have represented with our Team Lemon, Team Lime, and all the fun stuff. We're currently signed up with 7 teams of 4 drivers each. So there is endurance racing over at ACC. But we don't currently have, because we are still a little bit low in numbers. Given this is our GTS is our main ACC league, we usually have a grid of 20 to 25, and if you would split that by teams for endurance racing, there wouldn't be the grid yet. But if we would increase in numbers in the future, there is definitely interest in endurance racing overall. But we still do it, but just not with an own league.
There we are then. I hope that answers your question there, False Tax. So, as we continue to watch this race then, we have on our screens once more, it's Prune Tracy, representing Boating Ain't Easy team, according to the graphic there that you can see in the bottom right hand of your picture. And we will wait and see as to how things are going between these guys here. Again, it's very, very close. Bathurst, for those who are unaware, is a circuit out in Australia. It's very tight and twisty, as you can see, with big, big elevation changes. The barriers just always threatening you at every turn. No runoff anywhere, really, except for on the back straight, perhaps, where you've got a couple of areas of grass, really, but no tarmac runoff, certainly. And as they head through here, you can see this is fairly symptomatic of what happens over the course of a lap here, is that through the second sector, you start to lose a little bit of time to the car ahead, and then it's oh dear, and they bounce across everywhere. Oh my goodness, it's Hogwarts. What's happening here? They've flown. We've rightly switched to Gabriel instead of Prune Tracy because I was getting scared there. That was like some horrible ride in an amusement park. Anyway, so Prune Tracy with their typical ping scares the living daylights out of us, and then we get back to normality. Meanwhile, we've got Van Winsum in the BMW here. With their teammate Manning just behind. You can see there the two Halfords racing cars. And just ahead of them is Williams in the GTR. And Williams, having done a superb effort, it must be said, in this race. 8th place overall currently, leading the amateur class. Unless AM doesn't stand for amateur, I don't know. I'm going to assume it does. And so leading the AM class at the moment by a number of positions over Kuma, who's in 12th place overall, 2nd place in the AM class. You can see on the left-hand side, you picture on the timing tower, if there is a driver with a name, with a number rather, that is red there in the AM class, so determined to be one of the slower drivers in the series. If they have a grey background number, then it's a silver class member, and if it's a white background with a black number, then they are pro class. And I'm sure by process of elimination, you can figure out which one is which. So, in terms of this race that's going on between these guys, then we've got two of the Team Halfords guys. They are on the same team. They don't necessarily have to run BMWs, I think. But look at this now. Change for position. We've got the Only Clown's car going by the Jumbo car, and it's a swap in position there. I don't know if that's for tactical reasons or whether that is for just a change in position and a legitimate overtake. You'd imagine that given that Manning is a pro driver versus Van Winsum being a silver driver, they may be able to have a bit of an easier time in getting past Williams here. So we'll wait and see then as to whether that comes true or not. Certainly Williams has had a very good run in this first sector over the course of this race. Did a brilliant move. And oh, look at that! Is that McDermott? Is that McDermott in the wall? It is! Oh dear, what has happened here? Has there been another incident with a lapped car, or has this just been all on their own? So up the hill they come then, through the right-hander, onto the power, and they just lose the back end. Look at that. And then it's a 1, 2, 3. Oh, and a 4th tap into the wall. Then they try and spin the car around. It's tap number 5. Tap number 6. These are getting a bit more than taps. These are sort of, oh, that's tap number 7. Honestly, if you just called these taps in an investigation into violence, I think you would be laughed out of court. But there we go. So we've got. Well, I talk a load of nonsense, as we all know. So Manning then is up into 7th place at the moment in their BMW, and they are currently they have been able to get by Williams. In fact, they've been able to get that done, and now it looks like are they getting by? No, because that is a lapped car. That is a lapped car because Karppinen is in the McLaren up the road. So then it looks like the fight is not over, though. Williams is coming back at them. They have the outside line, which for now may not benefit them all so much, but it would turn to the inside line. Look at this. They've actually been able to overtake them. So now heading into the right-hander here, down towards the chicane. It's now going to be, late dive on the brakes from Manning. Manning tries to get it done, but he's just outbraked by the Nissan. The Nissan having great grip here and great braking performance. And now as they power down towards the second to last corner, Manning is still there, still wants to get that move done, and it looks like they may well have done, but they've compromised their exit as well. Down the start-finish straight we go. There's only 12 minutes left in this race as well, so this is where we're going to start to see more moves starting to happen. And now into turn number 1, Manning gets crowded out, and now are they going to lose the position to the jumbo car of Van Winsum as well? I'm not sure, but if Manning has had a good exit out of there, they may well be able to do what they did earlier on to Johansson and get a move down around the outside of turn number 2, but we'll have to wait and see. It looks like, though, that gap has opened up sufficiently enough where Manning is now safe. Yep, looks like it. There's a little bit of a look to the inside from Van Winsum, but it was a bit of a half-hearted one, I think it must be said. More just a bit of an intimidation tactic, and so up the hill they go then, and it is a change in position. Williams down to P8.
Yeah, and actually seeing Prune Tracy closing the gap. 0.3 behind Gabriel. I don't think we'll see this overtake happening, but I really would hope so. Maybe towards the end, getting some more aggression in, but they are like that since the last 30 minutes. I doubt that we would see a position swap anytime soon over there. Absolutely,
yes. I do apologise, Hummersep. You're going to have to do a bit more talking. I've currently got half a burger in my mouth. It's been I should have explained for the stream. This arrived about 5 minutes before we went live. It's been sat here for about an hour, just sort of staring at me, and I can't do it anymore. I need to eat. Hummersep, take it away. I
would not have the discipline. But seeing, especially this fight, looking at is also between classes. Williams being a fairly competent AM driver here, probably might be up for a move for silver class here, as he constantly puts up some solid performance. As behind in the back, Actinitz is following Kuma as well, fairly closely, not too far away from an overtake. I think the McLaren should have quite some advantage on the longer straights over the BMW, but I might be mistaken over here. Also, Chibbles or whoever might need to notify the Div 1 people, as we are 5 minutes late probably with the race. Div 1 is supposed to start in 5 minutes. We have 10 minutes left, so if anyone could notify Div 1 here, would be Poggers. As we might run into slight delays, but we shouldn't be as too bad. As Johansson chasing down Alarak here up the hill with the Porsche. The Porsche, one of the more unstable and hard to drive cars. Mad respect for Johansson to put it off like he does, fairly consistent and always fighting for the top spots in the silver class.
Yes, indeed, and I'm now half a burger down. Just to answer a question in the chat from False Tax, yes, a silver driver is between Pro and Am. So Pro being the absolute fastest, like the likes of Fraser up at the front, and Gabriel and Prune Tracy just behind. Then you've got the likes of Karpinen, silver driver, who's able to mix it in with the pros sometimes, especially if the pros encounter problems. And then you've got Williams, the leader of the AM drivers at the moment, having taken advantage of some pro drivers dropping out, and some silver drivers as well. And just generally getting into some bother and taking advantage of that bother. So, Van Winsum and Johansson fighting one another for position in their silver class, but also fighting on circuit between two AM drivers as well. So we'll have to wait and see how all that shapes out. Hummersep, take it away once again. I'm going to try and get the other half down.
Yeah, I think as we also have some first-time viewers here from FRS, I think it's also quite valuable if I let you know about a few of the drivers' names, because in ACC you usually have a proper driver name and not your Steam name. So I think you know way more drivers than you probably aware of. Starting from the top, Helgit is Fraser, Gonsalves is Gabriel, Tracy obviously Prune Tracy, Karpinen is Tekkonen, Pentile is False 12, Donald is Donald, that's fine. Joe Manning, I don't think races in FRS, and Williams either, but I might be wrong, I just don't remember them at the moment. Van Winsum is Alarak, Johansson is Mark Hopkins, Kuma is Kuma, Actinitz is new and FRS Sim exclusive, Daly is King Valrus, Keller's also fairly new, a Finnish friend of Tekkonen. Holo is Holo, McDermott is Crusoe, Crabtree is AWD Turbo Guy. Oh, I know Soros, but I can't remember for my life. But Charlie Cooks, and De Bruyne is Rage. As Acton's still chasing down Kuma here. Looking fairly close to get the overtake down, especially with Kuma looking somewhat shaky on the uphill part here. And Charlie Chibble subbed with tier 1. We got the affiliate thing going, which is quite nice since this week over at FRS Motorsports, which is very nice. And I'm so hyped for the Div 1 race afterwards. It's going to be quite fun over here, as we have someone, Mitchell Van Wensum, getting an overtake done on Hopkins and can actually stick it as well. as Chibbles is hoping for the red race. That's just mean. And as Acton is going for it, but backing off in the corner here. Sensible, it's an easy one where you can easily lose it. We saw it before in the sprint race. But still close to it. We have 6 minutes left. Once the timer is done, we will wait for the leading car, which is Fraser, in his beautiful Toy Story car. Wait for him to finish the race, and then everyone finish their lap to finish the race, pretty much. And then we will have a tiny short break, setting F1 up, and should be good to go with F1 stuff in no time.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Hummersep, absolutely fantastic job, as always. I've now had the whole burger. It was very nice, but it had some surprise chilies in it, so I'm crying slightly. So, as you've rightly been telling us then, in this race we've got a number of fights going on. We've got Kuma versus Williams at the moment. That's the battle on track between the two AM cars, but there's a bit of a gap between those two. Denny's is the McLaren in white, just behind the BMW of Kuma, you can see here. And these guys very close on circuit, and even if there is a bit of a pace differential, as you might expect, with Denny's being a silver driver and Kuma being an AM driver, because of the nature of Bathurst, it just means that things are incredibly difficult to overtake here. But the presence of a lapped car just up ahead might throw a little bit of a spanner into the works for Kuma here. Especially if that lapped car goes any slower than it already is. You can see here that these two are just wanting to go even faster. The lapped car of Soros now pulls out to one side. A bit of a note for you all as well. Soros had a bit of an issue, technically, in the first race. Their wheel clamp came off of their desk. So hopefully they're going to be able to have that all sorted in time for next week, but because it certainly looks like they've been a bit in the wars this week. But now, look at this one then. So up the inside, Kuma just tries to cut him off. And as they go into the chicane, then it looks like Kuma's gone deep. Kuma's gone very deep, goes over the curb onto the grass, and now just is able to defend the position ever so slightly, and just enough, in fact, as they head down towards the final corner.
As they were fighting, we can actually in the back see Valros chasing them, also on position. Maybe having a chance here as well if they keep fighting for the rest of the lap here.
That's absolutely right, and as Ohei points out, I at some point, probably in the next sort of 3.5 minutes or so, I will have to stop because I have a lump of burger in my throat. What kind of burger? Important questions, says Charlie Chibbles. Well, I will tell you the kind of burger. It's called a T-Rex burger. I have a funny feeling it doesn't actually have T-Rex in it. Either the dinosaur or the band from the 70s, 80s, whenever it was that they were playing. But it was very nice. It was beef, cheese, Monterey Jack cheese, and clearly some chilies or jalapenos of some description. Quite spicy. Very nice, though. And some good relish as well. And cheese. More cheese. Anyway. So, less of my foodgasms going on and making everybody feel hungry or uncomfortable. One of the two. We've got now Kuma in this fight still with Denny's, and that BMW just able to hold off the McLaren lap after lap. And things very close as they go through the downhill section now, and the middle part of the lap, and you can see there. Whoa.
Oh.
Oh dear, dear, oh dear. That's a big incident for Dennis. You could see they just took too much curb on one corner, and then the way in which the corners all flow together, it just means then you end up having an incident in one corner. You then are bound to have another incident in the next, and the next, and the next. And you can see here, Denny's really struggling with that car now, just to get it pointed in the right direction even. So Karpinen then is in 4th place at the moment. Was the beneficiary of some action earlier on, I believe, between Pentila and Donald. It was the only way that I can explain how Karpinen's gotten ahead of those two, after he had previously been behind the pair of them, after being overtaken, in fact, by Donald. So clearly the pace was not on their side at that point in the race, and we were paying attention to them. Meanwhile, Johansson up the inside of the first turn then, keeping a good line through that first apex, and now as they power down towards turn number 2, we could potentially see a move on here. The Porsche getting closer and closer all the time. If they're able to dart to the outside, they're looking up the inside, but the Team Halford's BMW has it covered. They go to the outside then. Will they be able to hang it all the way around the outside? No, they don't. Instead, they go for the apex, try to get the up and under, but the BMW has that covered off. So, stations as they were then between Van Winsum and Johansson. Johansson, of course, having a very, very impressive display last time out in Spain. Last week, that I should say, but things close as they were then for them, they ended up having some errors and some issues and things like that, and they ended up tumbling down the order as a result. This time, things looking much more positive for them in what is currently P3 in the silver class, and P9 overall as well. Of course, I'm fairly certain that, like any racing driver, they will want to make that P3 a P2 and the P9 rather a P8. Meanwhile, we're back on board with Gabriel, who is defending admirably and has been all race long from Prune Tracy. And they power down now towards the turn number 2 here. And Gabriel's on the inside. Prune Tracy flashing the lights there cheekily as they head down towards turn number 2. They then return to the racing line and then take the corner as normal. Fraser is up in the lead still, just extending their gap lap after lap after lap. This will be the final lap of this race because Fraser, just up ahead of them, is the leader of this race. And we have 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 seconds to go. So, white flag now comes out, so they're on their final lap. And when Fraser comes across the line, it will be their 3rd win in 4 races this season so far, if they're able to keep it on the road and make no mistakes towards the end of this one. Otherwise, it's going to be a win for Gabriel. Unless, again, of course, provided that nothing changes between now and the checkered flag. And we'll have to wait and see, though, because there's still a number of tricky corners to go, which they have navigated absolutely perfectly so far in this race, but it ain't over until the fat lady sings.
Yeah, and last lap, Fraser having a solid lead, drove it down fairly convincingly, didn't make any mistakes, and unless he bottles it in the last few turns, he has a very deserved first place here.
Absolutely, yes indeed. We'll keep an eye, of course, on what's going on just behind them, but as you say, it's been a fantastic effort from Fraser. Fraser now comes towards the line and will cross the line to take the win here in Bathurst. It's their 2nd win at the circuit today, and it's been a brilliant drive on both occasions. Gabriel comes across the line to finish 2nd, and then Prune Tracy comes across the line in 3rd at their home event. Meanwhile, we've got Actenis now on their own, seemingly, with Callas nowhere in sight, or Kuma, in fact, either one of them. And we can see now Daly on board with them, with a BMW just behind. I think that is of Crusoe. So that fight is not for position at all. It's just the pair of them going at it with one another, and not in the fun way. Or maybe in the fun way, who knows. Well, it's anyway, as they head down the hill, that's neither here nor there, and things are very close between them. But again, this isn't really for position at all. Yeah, there would need to be a... Excuse me. Oh, that did come through on the mic, did it? Oh dear. Right. Well, there we go. Everybody heard me sneeze on stream. That's slightly embarrassing, but there we go. So, most of the drivers across the line at this point then, and we're just going to watch now as Johansson comes round the final turn. They follow Van Winsum home. It's been a very valiant effort from them. But unfortunately for them, that is all that she wrote. And now then, through the final turn comes Williams in the GTR, has put in an absolute stonker of an effort today, Williams. They come across the line to come home. I believe that's P1 in the AM class. The results now are going to look slightly strange on account of the fact that we've had some guys start to leave to, of course, go and get prepped for PC Division 1, the coverage of which is going to begin very, very shortly. And we've just got now a few cars left to finish. We've got Acadenies at the moment, who we're on board with, and then one other car as well. I believe that's Callus just behind them as well.
Yes, indeed.
So there we go. Through the final corner comes Acadenies, and up towards the line. It's a good effort from them. And then the final car yet to finish the race is Callus. Well done to them. Well done to all the drivers involved. We will now have a very short break, probably only about a minute or so. Just enough time for Hummersep to get replay saved, lobbies gotten into, all that sort of thing. I shall get some water, and we will join you for F1 in just a few minutes'